this slasher guy could be killing people at the seaside. And I thought, oh, hold on. Well, if he's killing people at the seaside, it should probably be Mr. Punch from Punch and Judy.
That's the way to do it!
We'll see you in court.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Oh, hi, Mark.
It's delicious! Oh my god!
It's a seaside set slasher movie. Um, and the bad guy is a man in a Mr. Punch mask from Punch and Judy.
Nice. I mean, that's what sold it to me, so that worked. And it's but it goes in quite a few unexpected directions, not to give any spoilers away at all, but it has different elements of the horror genre in it, I would say, and perhaps people will be surprised by some of the directions it goes in. And it's very gory as well. Did you set out to make a particularly gory film or a very kind of shocking slasher, or were those did those kills come in the making of the film?
I mean, when you kind of pick Mr. Punch as your bad guy, that kind of dictates to a large extent, at least some of the kills, because he in the puppet show he hits people with a big stick.
Yeah.
He's a pretty disgraceful character. He's a wife beater.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
violence comes. A lot of the violence is inherent in the character. Really, in the original inspiration. So yeah, I mean, for a lot of the movie, it's a basher movie rather than a slasher movie, because he hits people with his stick rather than there's no knife stabbings.
Yeah.
And I think it is a horror movie first and foremost. We show so we wanted to put some kills in there, some blood and guts, and you're kind of dictated to a certain extent by the budget, so you kind of can't have every kill being spectacular.
Yeah.
Number two, we will do.
Oh,
We'll
nice.
go the Terrifier 2 route and spend our money on extra gore.
Nice.
But yeah, that's you kind of want to, as I said earlier, super serve your horror audience, really. In an ideal world, you want the general public to love this film as well, but you want to first and foremost super serve, your horror fans, your people who go to Fright Fest, those kind of people who, they want a little bit of practical gore in there.
Yeah, I was going to say the practical effects are really good, and they feel really. Well, when they come, they're quite shocking, but they serve the story really well as well. How did you come up with the idea of using Mr. Punch as a horror villain? Because it's quite an unexpected one, but one that I think particularly for the UK audiences will be very familiar. So was that born from some childhood trauma or fear, or were you just interested by the story?
I mean, the whole thing came about from a desire to create a British slasher, because we don't have any. There's
Yeah.
no British Freddy, Jason, whoever. And we kind of invented slashers really with Jack the Ripper in real life.
Yeah.
But we don't have any. So I kind of was like, right, I'm going to try and think of one. And I came up with some terrible ideas. Guy in a Union Jack outfit, like a Spice Girl or something. Just yeah. So I went through a bunch of ideas, and then it was only kind of marrying it to the setting that Mr. Punch came up. And I also completely separately wanted to set a movie in a British seaside town in winter. I just love the melancholy vibe of, everything's shut, the windswept beach, a place that should be full of kind of fun and children, and for several months of the year it isn't.
Hmm.
I find that quite a creepy kind of place. And yeah, I was like, okay, maybe this slasher guy could be killing people at the seaside, and I thought, oh, hold on. Well, if he's killing people at the seaside, it should probably be Mr. Punch from Punch and Judy.
Yeah.
I thought, and yeah, visually that's going to work really nicely. Um, and I had to check it hadn't been done before.
Mm.
There'd been a few killer puppet movies, but nothing with a guy in a mask. Um, so yeah, then I started writing and started coming up with a mask because
Nice.
that is actually an important part of a slasher movie. What you remember is what the mask looks like, really.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we had to get something that would be quite memorable.
And the voice is very key as well. Like it's a sort of slightly comic, but also pretty horrible killer voice as well. Like where did that? How did you get that
Yeah,
right? Obviously, it was based on the original voice, but yeah, how did that come about?
yeah. I mean, again, so much as a horror character comes from Mr. Punch as a children's character
Yeah.
because he's a horrible character. He beats his wife with a stick and he's got this nasal, squeaky voice. Um, and inane catchphrases. I was like, oh, he's almost fully formed here. We just have to tweak him a bit
Yeah.
uh, to make him a horror character. Um, and the actual voice for the puppet show, it's done with a metal thing called a swazzle, and it fits in the back of your throat. Um, and we looked into kind of doing that with our actor, but it's you know we could have done it voiceover, or we could have done it with the actor playing him. Um, but it just wasn't safe really because these
Mm.
guys who do the puppet shows, they trained for it's like a passed down through the generations thing. It's like a carnival tradition. And the dangers of swallowing this thing are very real. So we did it with a mix of our voice actor doing an impression and then a bit of digital trickery to try and get that squeaky sort of unpleasant nails on a blackboard kind of voice.
Yeah. And did you have any horror influences? Are you a big horror fan yourself? Obviously, you've done a fair amount of horror now, and say you're a fan of Fright Fest, so clearly you have a love for the genre. But are there any particular films that stand out to you as inspirations, or ones that kind of set you on your path to creating this kind of film?
I mean, it, yeah, I am a big horror fan. I will watch any horror movie and any and every horror movie. And yeah, I would be at Fright Fest, whether if I had a film or not. So this comes from a love. This was it doesn't come from a cynical kind of what's going to sell. Obviously, as I was producing it, I was thinking, is this going to sell? And
Yeah.
hopefully it will. Um, but it just comes from a place of love. And in terms of inspirations for the film, especially when we were on set, um, I was kind of trying to explain the vibe to the actors and anyone who came on as being like Ken Loach's Halloween
Right.
or
Yeah.
Mike Lee's Halloween. We wanted to kind of get this British kitchen sink reality and then meld that with the much more sort of American slasher formula because it follows the formula of Halloween, which is essentially it takes place over one day and night. There's a killer out there, and a group of young people have to survive the night. So the structure is there from Halloween, the sort of the blueprint for every slasher movie. Um, and then it's kind of what you do with it, and the setting and the characters that you put into it were very British.
Yeah. And my expectation going into it, not knowing much about it, was that it was maybe going to go down the kind of B movie comedy horror, like very over the top format. And actually, it is much more gritty and much more interesting. And there's some other sort of elements of the genre in there as well. So how did you decide which direction the kind of tone was going to go in? And also visually, it's very unusual as well. Like there's lots of trippy kind of scenes, and there's lots of unexpected moments. How did you decide on the tone for the film?
Yeah, I mean, tone's a tricky thing. Um, and yeah, you have to kind of decide when you come up with your slasher character. Are you going for horror comedy, or are you going for horror with, elements of comedy? And yeah, there was a big temptation to take it strictly down the horror comedy route. You have a kind of jester like clown like figure who tells jokes. Um, it would have been very, easy to kind of go down that route. But I wanted to get some of that kind of horror of the setting, and the melancholy of the setting in there, and then so that kind of informed it really, where I wanted it to be, and I wanted to try and also, get the characters to be, believable, relatable, so that you do, feel a bit more when they're being, terrorized in this way. Um, yeah, just obviously there's some jokes in there as well because you can't kind of keep it too grim. You don't want to make, if the film's about unpleasant things happening, you don't want it to be an unpleasant watch. But yes, that's where I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be genuinely creepy, and
Mm.
especially I think, you see that mask, because I designed it and we made it, and a company in Ireland made it, but it wasn't until they sent it over I was like, is this going to work? Is this going to look stupid? Is it going to be funny? And then you kind of put it on and with a hood, and then you're like, oh, actually, that's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going. This guy's horrible. He's not funny. He's not an anti-hero. He's horrible.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about it is that playing with expectations and being with people being so familiar with that character as well. You do get the elements of that, like the voice and the physicality, but it's not a slapstick horror. It's a there are some visual gags and some gags in there, as you say, but it is gritty and nasty in a lot of places, which I think works really well. And also visually, some of the scenes, like you have the party scenes are quite stylized, and it kind of suddenly transforms into something a bit more mystical and a bit more unusual and a bit more trippy. So those elements I really liked as well. Did you have a clear vision that those kind of scenes were going to be in there from the beginning, or was that informed by the cinematography? Or
Well, I kind of worked with the cinematographer, a guy called Max Williams. He's a friend of mine who we'd shot a short film together before ages ago. And we just kind of sat down and thought about, the look of it, and the sort of overarching thing we tried to do was in the daylight hours, we're very naturalistic. So we're using largely just natural light that was there, um, just capturing what was there. And then when the sun goes down and, the arcade lights come on, and, the town itself takes on this slightly magical, mystical air, that's when we wanted to kind of ramp up the colors and the atmosphere. So that's, taking inspiration from the setting, really.
Hmm, brilliant. And what has the journey been so far? How long has the film been in the works? Like, how long have you been thinking about this film? And then up until now, what are the plans from now on for it?
Um, we shot it. When did we shoot this film? We shot it almost 2 years ago. It was the first shoot in Hastings. Um, but then we had to do some pickup days in Clacton on Sea,
Okay.
because we didn't quite get everything we wanted, because we were shooting on location, and some of the locations we've been able to recce beforehand. Um, but some we couldn't. So you kind of turn up and you kind of have to go, okay, how are we going to stage this? One of the problems that we had, we shot on Hastings Pier, and that had not that long ago burnt down
Oh yeah, yeah.
and been rebuilt. So there's kind of nothing on Hastings Pier at the moment. There's no arcades or rides or anything. So we shot on the pier, but at night, without the rides and arcades and everything, it's just a kind of blank expanse of nothingness.
Yeah.
Um, and on screen, it didn't necessarily translate to we were on a pier. So that was one of the reasons that we had to go to Clacton, and that took a few months because we had to raise some extra money to go and do that, and wait till everyone's free again. Um, so then, yeah, so that it kind of took the shoot took place over 6 months or so because of that. And then there's a few little inserts as well we had to do with some of the SFX. Again, shooting SFX on location is difficult, so you might want to shoot something, an element or something somewhere else. And then, yeah, so it came out of Fright Fest last year in August. Um, it's playing at Horror on the Sea this weekend, which is
Nice.
very fitting.
Yeah.
So that's the South End, overlooking the pier and the arcades and everything. So that's
Yeah.
going to be a perfect location for it.
Amazing.
And then, yeah, Monday the 22nd comes out in the UK. Um, and that's going to be on video on demand. Hopefully, everyone's going to love it. The distribution going to come in, are going to make loads of money, and then we make number two. I've got number two planned
Amazing.
because part of the reason, I was saying that we don't have many slashers here. We also don't have many sequels here.
Mm.
Um, Thinking about, you know, what was I thinking of? It's just been announced they're doing 28 Days Later, number three.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
20 years after the first one. That's kind of closest we've got to a horror franchise really here in the
Yeah.
UK at the moment. Um, so I wanted to create a character that hopefully has the legs to warrant a number two, number three, number four, and do a proper franchise.
Can we expect to see
So that
can we expect to see killer policemen and crocodiles running around with lethal sausages and things in the second one? Or
Oh yeah,
I'd
oh
say-
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got it all here. Introducing all of the other Punch characters,
Nice.
exploring more of the mythology of kind of how he came about. Um, there's potential to do maybe historical um, episodes where you kind of find more about, the origins of the Punch character,
Nice.
with the potential to take him to other places. So out of his seaside location, imagine, this very British killer killing people in Vegas or
Yeah.
Thailand. You know, by number 10, he should be in space, really.
I'll be very disappointed if it isn't. Amazing. Well, that's great that you've got a sequel lined up. And again, congratulations on this film, which I really enjoyed. Really surprised me. And as a horror lover, it's nice to see something refreshing and fun, but also that has some grittiness to it. And also, nice to see the British seaside getting some appreciation. So that's always nice. What's next for you, and where can people find out more about the film, about yourself, and anything that's coming up?
Well, I've got my own production company called Paranoid Android Films. So you can just go to paranoidandroidfilms.com, and there's links there. You'll find me on Twitter and Instagram and everything. So that via that production company, that's how we made Punch. I'm a writer director by trade and had never had any interest in being a producer. But during the pandemic, all my projects fell apart as they did for everybody, and the industry shut down. But I knew I didn't want to do nothing for however many years that was going to go on for. So I set up my own production company. We made a very low budget thriller called Graphic Desires, which is out now on Amazon and everything. And that was the first film. Then the second film we did was Punch. So that was kind of nice in a way to be able to come up with an idea. And then, normally you come up with an idea as a writer, you write the script and then you pitch it to production companies, and it can take however many years to kind of become reality. Um, so I kind of pitched it to myself. I went, yes, yes, that is a good idea. Why don't you do that? Yes, you should. And managed to get that made. And then uh, last summer, we produced a film called Custom, which I didn't write or direct. This is somebody who pitched to me, a director called Tiago Tejera. I'm probably not saying his name right. He's originally from Brazil. Um, and that is going to be playing at Fright Fest in Glasgow. So the world premiere of that will be Fright Fest in Glasgow.
Amazing.
And that is Custom.
Great.
And that is a psychosexual thriller about a couple who make custom sex tapes.
Right.
And then one day they get an offer from a mysterious client on the internet for £10,000 for one scene. But the proviso is they record it on VHS videotape, send him the tape, and never watch the tape.
Ah, sold. That sounds great.
And that's the kind of, what sets this mystery in action. Because, I'm not giving away too many spoilers because they do watch the tape. And
Okay.
things start to go wrong from there on in.
Okay. Oh, that sounds awesome.
So that's going to be announced playing at Fright Fest at Glasgow in March.
Sounds brilliant. Congratulations for that, and good luck with that. And enjoy the release of Punch and the various festivals and all other screenings that come with it.
Thank
Congratulations. You. I'll see you again. Take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Andy. Bye.